talking about this idea of Mekusharim versus Shayochem Elov. So the difference is completely different. It's two different categories. You know, most of the time, and most people, they sweet talk things. We're all good. It's true. But if you see a lashon like this in a Maimah Chassidus, this is a Maimah Chassidus is Dach Divrei Elokim Chayim. It's the words of God. It's like God speaking through the mouth of the tzaddik, of the Rebbe. And he takes the time to say in a Maimer that was said in public in 1951, these two terms, Mekusharim and Shayochem Elov, that is very significant. And both are included. He's including both. But you have to know that there's a difference, and everyone has the free will to decide, does he just want to be Shayochem Elov, just associated with the tzaddik and this particular Rebbe, or he wants to be a Mekusher. And a Mekusher is a whole different thing. A whole different agenda. I was telling you, I was reminding myself, I went over to a person today who's 80 years old, a Talmud Chacham, Mamish, and a very refined person, Mechaber Sefer, and his father-in-law he came from Hasidim, but he had a strong Litvische element, and he was a Rosh Hashiva. Yeah? I mentioned his name, you probably would know, and a prominent person. This person I'm talking about learned in kollel, in a non-Chabad kollel in America, in a prominent kollel. And he was probably, if not the best, one of the best kollel people. So his father-in-law was involved with that kollel too. So he handpicked him. But he told me that he knew that he was a Lubavitcher, a Chabadnik. So, and he didn't have, he had respect for Chabad, but, he wasn't a Chabadnik. So he chose him. He wanted him. But he told me that he asked him one question before he signed on the deal. Listen to this. He asked him, are you the Rebbe as a soldier? At that time, he wasn't the Rebbe as a soldier. He was a strong friend of Chabad. But he wasn't yet the Rebbe as a soldier. And he told that to his father-in-law. The father-in-law said, if so, I could take you as a son-in-law. But if he would have said, I'm the Rebbe as a soldier, and if he would have been a soldier, seems to be he would have not chosen him. Why? He wasn't ready to have a son-in-law who's going to veto what he says and his wife says, his future Kala wife, because the Rebbe says so-and-so. That he wasn't ready to do. That's a whole different level. That's a Mekusher. Today he's a soldier. I want to make it. Today he's completely a soldier. But he told me the story. He told me this like now 3 to 5 years ago. And I know the people. I know the person he's talking about. He's talking about a real big Talmud Chacham, a leader, a fine person, be'emes. But he's not a Lubavitcher. He's not a Mekusher. He would come to Fabrengens. So this, I just wanted to, for a moment, elaborate for you to understand the difference between the two lashonis, the two terms here, Mekusharim and Shayochem Aleim. Let's continue. Hinei heim ba'atzmon kimu v'osu kain. So the Rebbe says in this mimer here that those things that the Rabbeim, that the Lubavitcher Rabbeim demanded and requested and demanded of their Mekusharim and their Shayochem Aleim to do, they themselves did. Don't think for a moment, Yoini, that the previous Rebbe wanted people to march in Baltimore with Rabbi Axelrod in the 1940s with the signs Shmira Shabbos, keep Shabbos, and he somehow wasn't involved. He was confined to a wheelchair, so he couldn't march in the streets of Brooklyn, but he was the powerhouse and the life battery of that whole movement. So he did his part. And the same with the Rebbe. the Rebbe pretty much didn't go out of Brooklyn except to the oil most of his years from when he came to America. He went to the Navy Yard in the 40s because he was a civil engineer and he worked there, mechanical engineer, whatever. But I'm saying he was pretty much a homebody. So you would say he's telling Chaim Dalfin and Moshe Braun to go out to the streets of Dizengoff and Manhattan and put on tefillin or to go visit Yidden in a nursing home. He himself is sitting in his comfort zone, Crown Heights. Chacham. He's the strategist giving the directions, and guess what? In his own way, when people came to see him, he did talk to them about tefillin. And he did spend hours 3 times a week in the years to 1970s, from 50 to 70s. The Rebbe was up till 6, 7 in the morning, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning, seeing people all night. So my schlepping to put film with someone compared to someone who's sitting, a 60 to 80-year-old man sitting and talking to people, and he's not yawning. Ask anyone that went into the Rebbe. He never yawned. And trust me, what did he lay down? Maybe he lay down for an hour during the day. Maybe he fell asleep. I'm just saying. So this is not hypocrisy. What it says here is exactly emes, that the Rabbeim fulfilled what they demanded of others. Over the years, growing up here in Brooklyn and Borough Park, I would hear such criticism about leaders from other Hasidim. I'm not going to say names, but they would speak about one Rebbe who, after davening, would go into his private room and look at the stocks, if his stocks are up or down. Again, I don't know if it's true. I'm just telling you what the word on the street was. Talking about tzaddikim who... So the Rebbe says, again, I can't speak about other tzaddikim. I can just say what the Rebbe says in this Maimer. He says that those things that the Rabbeim demanded of their Mekusharim, and those that are Shayach Alehem, those that are associated with them, they themselves did. So I just explained how that would be applicable in even a situation regarding, putting on tefillin and running around and doing all of this. One person does it in this way, the person the other day, but they did the same idea of getting the tefillin accomplished, etc. Let's continue. Now here he starts, the Rebbe starts his treatise of Ahavas Yisrael. And this is only in this Maimer. All of you should know that only in this Maimer of 1951 did he take the time to give an example of each of the Rabbeim, how they were involved with the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael, to show us that not only did they demand of their chassidim to have Ahavas Yisrael and display Ahavas Yisrael and do Ahavas Yisrael, but they themselves did Ahavas Yisrael. So let's see what he says. And he says, take for example the Alter Rebbe. Shehivsik b'tfilosoi. He interrupted his prayers, v'holach v'kotzatz eitzim, and he went and cut wood, ubishel morak, and he cooked a soup, v'hechel ba'atzmei le'yeledis, and he himself brought it and fed it to a woman who was having a baby. Mipnei shleihoyu anoshim shom bebayis. There were no other people at home. So the Alter Rebbe himself did all of the above to go and bring a woman food. She's having a baby. She needs to eat something hot, some hot soup. That's an example. Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, I just want to point out, this is such a famous, what the Maimer's bringing, the Rebbe's bringing this Maimer, this incident we know is such a famous incident. But I heard that a slightly different girsa of this incident, one which includes that the Rebbe, when it says he interrupted his prayers, he removed his talus, and then he went out. And I was listening to someone share this a number of years ago, and he made a point to bring that out. He focused on that little nikuda, because it wasn't that the Rebbe just still had on his talus like he was going out of davening and so forth, but he was still sort of like like connected or no, he was totally into it. He was totally
Right.
So it's interesting. I pointed out because I remember when I heard that it made so much sense.
Right. And I'm very thankful that you said what you said. Yes, the Rebbe here just brings it very briefly. And the point that person made that you're sharing is an excellent point. That although he was immersed, and I think maybe it comes from the Rebbe in a Sikha. I think our Rebbe might have said that in a Sikha. He explained the story. He explained the story with the way you just mentioned that he was so immersed that he had his talus and he broke his immersion in chassidus and meditation in his davening because to go bring a bissel soup for a yoledis is even more important. Right? Yeah. Thank you. Next story from the Mittler Rebbe. Mikvayt Kedushas Admurem Tzai, the Mittler Rebbe, Eich Shenichtes Elav Echad, one person came to see him to the Yechidus to have a private audience. V'yisainen alein yonim sha'avreichim v'yisainen aleim, and he complained, he bemoaned the fact that he was involved in such things that young people are happen to goof up on, which he refers here, nocturnal omissions, zerelevatola. That's usually the reference that this refers to. So the Mittler Rebbe rolled up his sleeve. He saw that his own flesh shriveled up from the pain that he heard from this chassid that's asking the Rebbe for a tikkun. He saw that the Rebbe took it so seriously that his flesh was kind of bubbles, boils. It impacted begashmius. Just hearing that this chassid is dealing with a spiritual malady that he wants a tikkun for, it ate him up. So we see that the great Ahavas Yisrael of the Mittler Rebbe. We see it through this story. That's what the Rebbe says here. The kolze machatas nurim shelcha, and the Rebbe says further. And the Mittler Rebbe said to him, why I might have boils on my hand because of your nocturnal omission. Your transgression, and he wasn't scolding him. He was helping him with a tikkun. In other words, you come to a Rebbe, right? You tell him about whatever, you open your heart. You tell him about any issue, right? Isser. Okay. The Rebbe hears, maybe he'll give a sigh, maybe he'll give a cry. Boils on his hand because he can't fathom the transgression and it eats him up. But gashmias, physically. That's what he says here. We understand the wonder and exaltedness of the Mittler Rebbe, the second Chabad Rebbe, Bechlal, generally speaking, and specifically how distant he was from people who are associated with nocturnal omissions. That was a tzaddik. This is not even in his consciousness, kind of, okay? And yet, when a Yid comes to him and pours his heart out and says, Rebbe, give me a tshuva for this Aveira that I did, the Rebbe feels it and is empathy, not only sympathy, as though he did it, even though really he's completely removed from it. That's what he says. Nevertheless, the Mittler Rebbe connected himself. He bound himself to every one of his Hasidim that kolkach to the point he was connected them that when they brought to him his attention things that were not appropriate, Paul etz all of Chalishus Hapriyas B'Yoser, it impacted his health. Poshit kipshutai, he became weaker begashmis. Till his skin, maybe it wasn't boils, it was peeling, something with his skin. The skin of the Rebbe was impacted begashmius in a negative way because he heard about this transgression of his chassid. That's the second example of Ahavas Yisrael from the second Lubavitcher Rebbe. Number 3, Mikveit Dushas Amurat Tzemach Tzedek. He says now that Tzemach Tzedek Eichshehol Koydem Atfila Lilveis Gemach, before davening, the Tzemach Tzedek went to give a Gemilas Chesed alone leish pasha to a simple person. It was relevant. Just like this morning before davening, I had this opportunity to be involved in a Gemilas Chesed before davening. I learned from the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek, in other words, technically before davening. One second. Before davening, you're not supposed to do anything, right? No. Someone came to Tzemach Tzedek and he needed a loan. He needed was chesed. Tzemach Tzedek went and found the money and gave him the loan. Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, exactly. So this exact same point. I heard this same story, but Dafka, this point was the point that was brought out. He could have given it to him after davening.
Yeah.
But he said we started to daven, but he stopped. He said, "Wait a second. Today is whatever the day was. Today is market day. Today is the Yerid. And if I give it to him after davening, he's gonna miss out because all the sales, the best prices he can get for what he needs to do is now, not in an hour and a half."
Right. Okay, I hear you, but over here it says it was before davening. You said he started davening.
No, so I'm saying that's the point. The Rebbe gave it to him.
Oh, before davening, he could have started davening. Right.
No, I'm saying the Rebbe realized he had to give it to him right now before davening.
Right.
Because if he didn't give it to him now,
he would lose out. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was the point.
Yeah, got it. Number 4, from the Rebbe Marash. Marash, the fourth Rebbe of Shmuel of Lubavitch, Shepam Nosa B'yichud Mikarahort LeParis. He once traveled, I guess, from a place called Karahort to Paris. V'nifkashom im avrech echad. He met a young man, a young Jew. And he said to him, he met him, it doesn't say here, he was in a bar. The Rebbe knew about. And he went to the bar, and he met, and he said, young man, yayin nesech, wine that's, touched by a guy and all that. Yayin nesech is metamtem hamoyach valev. It contaminates the mind and the heart. Zayayid, be a Jew. And stop. He didn't say, Zayayid. In other words, stop. What?
Like Cholovakum.
Not really. I mean, Cholovakum is not as serious. Yayin Nesech is much more severe than Cholovakum. So, those that keep...
No, they're saying the Tim Malev.
Yeah, the Tim to Malev. Yeah, okay. If that's what you mean, yes. Good. This young man went back to his house. And he couldn't rest. He went back. He was right. It was probably late at night, and he couldn't sleep, and he couldn't rest. And he went back to the Rebbe Marash. He found his house wherever he was. He did tshuva. And from him came family of Yereim, of Yerushalayim, and Charedim. The word Charedim. Now the Rebbe brings out the richness of the story. It's known that the Rebbe Marash, by him time was very precious. To the point that when he said Chassidus, he said it very briefly. He didn't say long discourses. And at certain times, already at 8 o'clock, it sounds like Chaim Dalfin. He was after davening. And nevertheless, He traveled a very long distance, and he remained with this person there a long time, so that he can help this young man who was drinking yayin nesek, goyish wine, etc., and he can make him, and he can help him do tshuva. Finished. Now comes the fifth Rebbe. Which is the Rebbe Rashab, at the beginning of his leadership, there was a new decree that the Tsar decreed. So the Rashab had to travel probably to Moscow or Leningrad, whatever, to the capital or nearby, to absolve, to annul this decree. Oh, it says he went to Moscow. So his older brother, Zalman Aaron, Zalman Aaron, Nishmosei Aiden, his soul's in Aiden, he said to his younger brother, Hasman Yoker Etzelcha, you're a Rebbe, you're a tzaddik, he was a businessman. Your time is very precious for you, my brother, Sholem Ben. You don't know Russian that well. I'm in the business world. I know Russian. You're with Chassidim, teaching Chassidus and all that, and you don't know Russian that well. So he says to him, look what it says in the parentheses. The Razah was learned, was knowledgeable various languages. You, when you go there, you're going to have to search for contacts. He says to his brother, I will travel regarding this decree, based on your instructions, because I know the language. I have some more contacts on the business world, and I'm not busy with with the people and ruchnis and all that, and I have them, so my time is more available for that. The Rebbe Rashab said to his brother, lay his skin. I don't agree. I don't want it. The Rebbe says that Rashab himself went to this meeting with his broken Russian and no contacts, and he was successful, showing his Ahavas Yisrael. And so there's many stories of my saintly father and all the Frierdiker Rebbe regarding his attempt to do a favor to a specific person, beruchnius, either spiritually or begashmis, or physically, materially. And he put himself aside, not only to put aside his physical, material good and health, he put aside his spirituality. He could have learned it, he could have davened, and he took time to help another Yid. Although he did good with him, the person who he sought to help and he helped wasn't at all in the category of a friend that's considered a friend in Torah mitzvahs. In other words, a from person. He helped a Yid, any Yid, a Freie person, non-religious, non-Haredi. This is the Frierdiker Rebbe, Chavre. This is not our Rebbe, it's the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Rebbe is saying this about him. There was someone that wasn't at all in his league, in his realm, because he was totally removed from Yiddishkeit. I just came back from Montreal last week. The property of the yeshiva was donated partially by a woman named Ida Bloomberg, I think. She was a relative of the family Denberg, which is a Chabad family. In the 1940s, she donated a lot of money for the yeshiva. I think what the yeshiva is either today or the old building. And Rabbi Kramer, Oliver Sholem, who was in charge of for the Frierdiker Rebbe, for the Meisters, he brought it to the Rebbe, to the previous Rebbe, and she said to the previous Rebbe, I'm not frum. Like, you're taking money. I'm giving you, I want to support. She came from Lubavitch Gezer, she came from Lubavitch Hasidim from Russia way back. But she said to Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe said to her, I think it might even be on agendas, not with her, because she passed away many years ago. The Frierdiker Rebbe said to her, Only Hashem knows who's from. This is the Frierdiker Rebbe. He's not playing games. He's not playing games, you know. He wants to make him feel good. It's not Frum. You know, the Rosh Hashanah for Frum is the acronym. Viel Rishes, wenig mitzvahs. Tremendous amount of bad, evil, and very few mitzvahs. Fei Reish Vav Mem. Viel Rishes, wenig mitzvahs. Or as we say, Frum via Galach. He's religious like a priest, you know. That's Frum. That's Frum. So when you learn such a thing, the Rebbe quotes, he says about his father-in-law, and you think about it a little bit, you know, this idea of discerning, you know, again, I don't want to talk negative, but, you know, sometimes shulach comes into a shul. I see it here, probably you guys see it in Bet Shemesh. If he wears a long frock and a hat up, and he has a full beard, he'll get more. If he comes in like he looks not like one of us, either he gets nothing or he gets much less. Why? Why should it be that way? If you trust that he's honest and he needs the money, then give everybody the same. Like, you know what I'm saying? This idea, no. Because you look like me and I look like you and we look like each other in this community, so therefore I trust you more. It's something to think about. I think about this to myself. Like, you know, if someone you know is suspect, I'm not talking about that. Because we've seen that too. And we discussed this. There are people come in, I know that they were not Jewish. All of a sudden they're wearing a beard and a hat. And I know that they weren't Jewish. Nebuch, you have that too. And then you have people that, you know, maybe are Jewish. Again, but as long as the cause is worthy and emes, there shouldn't be a difference. Chevra, have a great Shabbos. Shabbos, boy, it's the minig that we Lubavitchers take an aliyah this Shabbos for the Frierdiker Rebbe's yahrzeit, because the Rebbe writes this in his letter for the Frierdiker Rebbe. So although we have Gimel Tammuz and we take an aliyah for the Rebbe, I still feel that since the Rebbe gave this instruction, we should continue it. We should continue it. So it's the Shabbos, and we'll learn Mitzvah Shem Monday, whether I'm in Florida or here. We will have a shir Mitzvah Shem. Sei mir gesund. Love you all. All the best. Take care. Stay well. Stay warm. Bye bye.